Welcome to the One Day at a Time Recovery Podcast, where my guests share their stories of addiction, how they recovered, and the tools and practices they use to stay sober now. Hey friend, welcome to the podcast. My name is Arlina. I've been sober for 32 years, and it is really my life's mission to carry a message of hope of recovery. Here's a question we all need to consider, no matter where you are in your recovery journey. What if the survival skills that you developed in childhood, the performing, the achieving, and the self-abandonment for the sake of appeasing others, are the exact habits quietly keeping you feeling stuck in adulthood? This actually happens to everybody in one form or another, and we're going to talk about how to break some of those negative patterns. Today, I sit down with Katie Hingle, founder and CEO of Lavish, and a woman in long-term recovery. She's here to talk about how she's working through her own survival patterns. I've known Katie for decades, and I have always admired her, not just because she's so accomplished as an executive at Adobe and now the CEO at her own company, but because she is a woman of faith, service, and integrity. Katie is one of those shining examples of someone who has really done the hard work, not just recovering from alcohol, but untreated perfectionism, people-pleasing, and codependency. But before we jump in, I just want to share that because June marks 10 years of the One Day at a Time Recovery Podcast, I'm going to be doing something a little different in the upcoming weeks. I am going to do a series of episodes focused on early recovery. This will be for those who are simply wanting to take a break from alcohol, those who are sober curious and don't really want to go to AA, or those coming back after a period of drinking. I want you to know that no matter where you are in your journey, I am here to support you with a safe space for coming to your own conclusions about what's right for you. In today's episode, you'll learn how to recognize when your survival mechanisms have become your biggest liability, why resentment is at the root cause of unraveling your recovery and relationships, the concept of collateral growth and why doing your own work changes everyone around you, and finally, how recovery principles translate directly into building a business and showing up in relationships. So without further delay, please enjoy this episode with Katie. Well, Katie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Arlina. I'm so grateful to be here and see you. I've followed you for so long. Love your podcast. Love you. There is an honor and privilege when you asked me. I was like, wow, no kidding, really?
Oh my goodness. Sometimes I wonder if the people I admire don't see themselves the way we see them. You are amazing.
Thank you, Arlina. Back at you.
Thank you. And listen, I've known you for decades now. You're my homegirl from my hometown, and we both moved. You just recently moved to the East Coast.
That's right. We're in North Carolina now.
That's literally all the way across the country from San Jose, where we were from.
2,894 miles, but who's counting?
Yeah, approximately. Listen, I wanted to talk to you because you were at Adobe for a very long time. You were in leadership. And listen, you've done some amazing things. You were a surrogate. Was it twins?
Yeah, they're twins.
Oh my gosh. You've also, like me, have had issues with substance use, and you had a relapse after a period of long-term sobriety, and you again have long-term sobriety. I just feel like there are so many really interesting things about you that we could talk about. So this is my chance to put you on the hot seat, but we're going to play something called the lightning round, which is very slow. I always like to ask people, when you first started in your recovery journey, were there any books early on that really helped you?
Oh, books. Yeah. It's so interesting. That's a great question, but not really so much. At the time that I was in the throes of all the issues that I had, I probably wasn't reading very much.
How old were you when you first started?
28.
28. Okay.
28 when I first got into waking up to the problems. I started actively, really actively in the disease when I was 21, but I had started way sooner than that. But that is when it turned a corner and became really bad.
Yeah.
But I guess early on, as I started the spiritual path and I started building some community around me. One of the books that people suggested was Sermon on the Mount by Emmett Fox. It was a little bit too smart for me in a way. My brain was not totally clear yet. And there was a lot of really big spiritual concepts, but it did help me get some clarity on spiritual life and trying to practice some different things. And one of the women that was guiding me along the way also was really into Marianne Williamson. I can't remember the name of the book. I didn't read the book, but I was getting a lot of guidance from that.
Marianne Williamson wrote a few books. I was introduced to her in 1994. She used to do a lot of lectures on A Course in Miracles.
Yes, that was it. A Course in Miracles. Yes.
Yeah, that was really interesting. She also wrote A Woman's Worth. But anyway, she's a brilliant writer and really deciphered A Course in Miracles for me because that's a really dense text.
Dense.
Yeah.
Somehow people were giving me these super dense things to read that I was like, wait a second. Another one was somebody said, read this book, and it was all about pride. Don't ask me the name. She ran a recovery bookstore and had all these different books. She's like, here, read this. And it was like so over my head. But I remember learning that starting to understand that even if I felt like a piece of garbage, which I did, I had a lot of low self-esteem challenges, that still was a form of pride. And, some people call it pride in reverse. And I also learned when I relapsed that pride goes before the fall. So the pride can be a pretty strong current or undercurrent in my recovery and in my life and in my business. It's all over the place.
The issue of pride. That was always a concept that confused me, the pride in reverse.
Mm-hmm.
That was always super confusing to me, and someone explained it to me as being the best at being the worst.
That's a good one. I have not heard that.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, I get it," because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, I'm just so terrible, I'm worse than everybody else." I'm the best at that. Let me just ask you a couple more questions about the lightning round, my very slow lightning round. If you think about recovery over the years, do you have a guiding principle? Is there
Love
sort of
that.
an idea that has carried you through all these years?
So many things, actually. There's probably a few good ones. One is that you can start your day over anytime.
Mhm.
And that's actually something that as a family, I have a family of four, a husband and two now adult daughters, but parenting them through everything, career and all the journey. And literally that was something that, if they were having a bad morning or what I was, or we can start the day over anytime. And the kids didn't understand it for a long time. They were like, that doesn't make any sense. And now they're like, it's so helpful.
Yeah.
Definitely that one. And I think the other part is also, is it a mantra? Is it more like a principle? It's learning to really listen to that internal knowing or practicing that internal knowing of I need help and being willing to say I need help. And really it's a daily practice. And sometimes it's easier than others. And it's been a real growth edge for me for a long time.
How is that a growth edge for you?
Well, I think because I'm recovering from a bunch of things, Arlina. So once you got this drinking out of the way, I learned a lot about I had untreated perfectionism, untreated people pleasing, untreated codependence, probably would be a big umbrella you put across
Umbrella.
all that. And so as I've continued on that journey and learning about that, I've found out that some of my survival skills as a kid were to just take care of myself since I was very little. And so asking for help isn't a natural skill. It's a skill I've had to develop. And so, it's like you peel the layers of the onion. And then next thing you know, I've got a new thing where I realize, well, I really need to ask for help for that. And I haven't been watching my own internal warning signals about it or really paying attention to that. It's gotten a lot better, but it still can trip me up.
It's a practice. You nailed it. It's such a daily practice. I feel like a lot of us grew up with that same sort of neurology of I need to figure it out. I'm on no help. There's no help coming. I'm on my own. It's survival. And so when I'm stressed, my neurology gets triggered and it goes to that same neural circuit of I have to figure it out.
Yeah, 100%. One of my earliest childhood memories is making a decision at 3 or 4 years old to throw my blankie away. And I
At
had
three or
yeah, I think so. And it was like, I have two older siblings, my parents, a little baby sister at that point. And I was like, I'm going to be a big girl. I'm going to throw away my blankie. I threw my blankie away. And a couple hours later, it's bedtime. And I said to everybody, I made a mistake. I need my blankie. I need my blankie. And they're all like, oh, and I'm trying to go to the garbage can to take it out. And they're all like, oh, no, the garbage man already came. I was like, oh, no, he comes tomorrow. And they're like, no, no, he already came. He made a special trip today. Blankie's gone. And I didn't put this together until a couple months ago. My entire life, my parents have been like, you were always so organized. You asked us at 4 years old for a calendar and you used to mark the days on your calendar. And I was always like, oh, that's so cool. Ha ha ha. I mean, it is a skill that helped me thrive in my career. Very organized. People would always say that was a big part of my role was to bring organization to the chaos. That's still what I do in my current business. And so, but all of a sudden it clicked a couple of months ago. I thought, oh, that was probably around the same time where they tried to pull the wool over my head and say, oh, nope, the garbage man already came. And I was like, they're not going to do that anymore. I'm going to check the days and I'm going to know, I'm going to have proof of what's going on. Survival skill.
Wow, that is incredible. How did that realization came up? It was just
I-
something recent?
It just, I don't know. It just prayer, meditation, inventory. I don't know. Somehow it came to me and I thought, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about being able to connect the dots in hindsight. It's like, oh, that's why I'm like this.
Mhm.
I don't know how you feel about this. I'm curious. Why, asking why is a double-edged sword
I agree.
because sometimes we need to understand the mechanics of things. If we can make it scientific, then it's not personal. But I see a lot of people in recovery get lost in, I heard a term recently called wound worshiping.
Oh, what is that?
I think it's important that we examine where the wounds come from and all that stuff. But I don't know about you, but I have seen people go way too far and hang
Mm.
on to that for way too long. I don't want that to be a term that people use to invalidate their own feelings. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can see that could be really invalidating in
Or
some ways.
dismissing. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Dismissing,
Yeah.
yeah, minimizing, all that stuff. But on the other hand, it's like if we keep going through that circuit, that loop of why, it's like we never get off the problem. We need to get into action. We need to experience some cause and effect, and that's how we grow. Do you know what I mean? And so I feel
Yeah.
like there needs to be a balance. I feel like that's why we need other people in our lives to be like, I think we're done with this. I think we need to keep it moving.
Right. Keep going. Right. Yes. And when an awareness like that unsolicited, it's not like I'm marinating on it,
You
too
weren't
much, but it
digging.
just came and I was like, whoa, who knows why that for me, it's God or higher power, but it gave me that thought. Okay, great. Thank you for letting me see that. You just touched on something else right now. I was reading today in a spiritual book that I read about paradoxes and how just being in life is a paradox. We are constantly, and we and everything else around us are constantly living and dying, growing and falling apart. And a lot of the literature that I read has a lot of that. Here's the duality of this, right? So to your point, it's good to maybe ask the why, but it's a double-edged sword. There's both parts of it can be true. And so on a daily basis, back to that, the mantras, am I heading towards growth? Am I heading towards darkness? Am I heading towards light? Am I heading towards darkness? What's my choice today going to be? And sometimes it's not the healthy path, and sometimes it is.
Yeah. When you say the literature, are you referring to like daily readers or spiritual
Yeah.
texts or
Yeah. Yeah. All of the above.
yeah.
So the past couple years, I got really turned on to this guy, Richard Rohr,
Oh,
and
love him. Breathing
love
underwater.
breathing underwater. But he has a book. It's a daily meditation book my girls gave me for Mother's Day a couple of years because I said, here, give this to me for Mother's Day. They did. So,
Be specific. Ask for what you
right.
want. Yeah.
Ask for what you want. And it's a 365 daily meditation that just captures all kinds of stuff from his talks, his writing, and today's was on paradoxes.
Oh, I love paradoxes.
You do.
I do. I do. It's so funny because it's difficult, I think, to hold two truths at the same time.
Mhm.
Over the weekend, we were just having this discussion over dinner. Somebody was talking about reading a book. They were traveling to Europe. And so he wanted to read a book about history of Europe. And it was like kind of a small synopsis, but it was basically a series of different groups hating each other and killing each other, and he was like kind of depressed about it. We're humans are terrible and people are terrible is basically what, I think the idea that he came away with. And I was like, hold on. Mr. Rogers taught us that whenever there's a catastrophe, look for the people who help. There will always be people who help. And I'm a glass half full kind of girl. Like
Yeah, you
there are
are.
1,000 things that go right every single day. 1,000. There are legions of people going to work every day. I mean, traffic is a testament to that, right? People are going to work, trying to do the right thing. People are taking care of their kids. There's all kinds of charities that are helping people. I mean, there's so it's like there are two truths that are both are true. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's challenging. And so when you take that to the paradoxes in our lives, like we are imperfect, we are also improving. No, we're not good enough in some ways, but we're also, do you know what I mean? I love
Yeah.
those kinds of, where do you see the other paradoxes in your life?
Mm. Well, here's a great one. I thought I was going to retire 3 years ago.
Surprise. Did you get
Surprise.
bored?
I got re-energized and
Oh,
inspired. But the paradox is, how do I live this life,
yeah.
which is about, holding space to be relaxed and take care of myself and be of service to others and my family and my husband. And I was another one of my addictions was workaholism.
Oh, my
I
kind of
had,
girl.
what I'm talking about,
Love it.
right? I had that. And
You're
so,
so good at it too.
it's another survival skill. It totally served me for a long time
Yeah.
until it didn't. And so
Yeah.
for me, there's this daily, balancing act of feeling into the paradox of, am I being of service and maximal use to God and my fellows?
Yeah.
Or am I tipping into workaholism, codependence, over caretaking? There's just these little lines that I can cross that are, there's no way to do it until you feel into it and go, oops, I flipped over again. Let me come back to center. Oops, I'm going the other way. Let me come back to center.
How do you know when you tipped over? Is it a feeling experience or do people call you out on it?
Probably not too many people call, maybe some people caught me out on it, but the feeling part of it, you mentioned this relapse I had a while ago. One of the things, and I was kind of figuring all that out again, was somebody was helping me see that there's the definition of self will is, I haven't found any evidence of this anywhere. I've searched it all up, but it doesn't matter because it changed things for me. They said the root word in Greek is anwella, and that it means of boiling water. And so when I am trying to run the show again, if I have that feeling of boiling water inside of me, that's usually a pretty good indication that I've tipped over into overfunctioning, running the show, thinking I have all the answers and not really pausing and asking for the right thought or action, asking for direction, asking for peace in my heart before I make a decision, asking for acceptance, serenity, all those things that are principle or spiritual principle that I've been guided to over the years.
Mhm. I love that
Did that
imagery
answer the
of boiling.
question?
That
Okay.
is
Yeah.
so good. The idea of boiling water, because as soon as you said that, I was like, yeah, I know that feeling. I don't know. The imagery just really struck me. I'm gonna have to use that too, but it's definitely a felt sense of experience for me too. It leads to my workaholism always leads me to this place of discouragement, frustration.
Yeah.
And then I start recognizing, oh, I think I'm all alone. I think I have to figure it out. Figure it out is not a slogan for a reason. Where's mine? Is usually that's like,
Uh, Okay. Yes. Thank you. That just triggered something in me too. Or connected. It was like my story is that I have to do it all.
yeah,
If I'm like, I'm back doing it all again. And that is totally not, that is not a safe place for Katie to be at all. Zero. It is time to pause and either ask for help, do it,
yeah.
I'll use the Serenity Prayer as a written tool where I'll say, okay, God, grant me the serenity to accept things I can't change. What are those things? Write them out. Okay, God, give me the courage to change the things I can. What are the things that I can change? Write them all out. Okay, God, thank you for that wisdom. Take a deep breath. And then if I start focusing on those things on list number one of stuff I'm trying to change that I can't, I'm like, wait a second, drop that, go back to your other list. What's the stuff you can do and go do those things? Ask for help, go take a bath, take a walk, do your own little project that you've got to work on that you've been procrastinating because you're blaming. I'm saying you, but me. It's me.
I hear you. Yeah.
I'm blaming somebody else in my life where I feel uncomfortable right now. Those things.
Blame is a great sort of guidepost along the path. I heard somebody say that power follows the blame finger.
What?
Yeah. You also hear if you're pointing your finger at someone, you have three fingers pointing back at you. If you spot it, you got it. But power following the blame finger, anytime I'm blaming somebody else for how I feel, then they have the power and I don't. And there's something, I don't know if it's like a
Oh,
pride thing, that I don't like that.
well, I'm
So I'm
not
like,
giving
no,
away
no, no, no.
power.
Yeah, let me take that back. Let me take that back. Where can I take responsibility? And I love how you're using that practice. I think where I sometimes, in all humility, I'd be like, oh man, I don't feel like I have the courage to
Yeah.
change things. I can't. And that's about fear, and that's what the higher power is for.
Yeah.
So I love that. I told you this was going to be slow. Do you have a regular self-care practice, whether it's daily, weekly, maybe you go to retreats annually? What does your self-care practice look like?
Yeah. Yeah. So daily is definitely mandatory for me. I used to slide on that. Then I learned that I can't. It doesn't work. So
Right.
95% of the time, it's not perfect, but 95% of the time I do wake up. I'm usually the first one in the household that wakes up. And I appreciate that in a lot of ways because I get to have quiet time and I do make my coffee and let the dog out and all that stuff. But I spend, 20 to 30 minutes by myself, read daily readers, take a look at the past day and see how did I do yesterday on areas that are important to me to stay clear in, make sure I'm not choking off any sunlight of the spirit. Take a look at that, see if I have to share anything with somebody else to get that cleared out.
Like
And then,
resentments or challenges or
yeah, or dishonesty or
Mm,
selfishness. Yeah, those things.
my favorite
Uh,
things.
yeah, or over caring, caretaking for others, overdoing it for somebody else when they could do it themselves. That's a
Mm.
big one, which is a form of dishonesty, honestly, where it's like, I think I'm being helpful, but really I'm harming somebody by doing their job emotionally or physically, whatever. So then I sit quietly and pray about it, pray for other people, ask God for guidance. And yeah, and then I go about my day. I love trying to go on silent retreat twice a year. I have to
Really?
find out where I'm going to do that out here because I was going down to Big Sur to a Benedictine monastery twice a year for many years. And it's not a guided retreat or anything. It's just like you go, it's like you
Mhm.
basically in your cell, your monk cell by yourself for however many nights and days. And it's just quiet. And 20, 30 years ago, if you asked me if I would be doing that, I would be like, hell no. And then it became part of my spiritual practice. And silence is really important to me. It really helps me fill up.
Are there guidelines like no cell phones, no books, no
Yeah, for that place, it's you really don't want to make any noise because everybody else around you is in silence too. Your cell phones, it's 2 miles up the mountain, and literally your cell phone doesn't work up there. You can't get tech, you can't plug in. But you can do whatever else you want, paint, draw,
Oh,
take hikes. There's a little bit of there's some places where you can talk and they do have services 5 times a day where there's chanting and singing. So you can join in on that if you'd like, but it's just peaceful looking out over
yeah,
the Pacific.
that sounds amazing. Is it like a 3-day, 5-day?
If you're going to stay there, it's a minimum of 2 nights and a maximum of 7, but it's
Okay.
all self-guided. They do retreats too, but I haven't done one of those.
I wonder if Kripalu's within a reasonable distance from you, because I believe they do that there too.
Oh, okay, I'll have
I
to
will
find
send you a
out.
link later. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
What's one thing you wish you would have known when you first started your journey?
Wow.
Whether it's sobriety, recovery, however you want to think of that.
What is one thing I would know, wish I had known? I think I've learned it, but I didn't know it at first that it's not linear.
What does that mean?
It means like it's not as though if I do A, B is going to happen, and then C and D and E and F. It's not a path. It's not a linear path. My experience of this change in my life is that I arrived, I had no clue what was going to happen. Although my whole life I thought if I do the right things, the right next things are going to happen. And all of a sudden it was like, hello, nope. That is just a big old idea that has to be smashed. And so once I realized it and stopped fighting it, ceased fighting it, my life got so much better.
Yeah.
So early on, I think if I had just known like, you're in for a ride and enjoy it, buckle in and stop fighting everything and just like, follow the lead, but
Mhm.
don't think you have to have all the answers because you don't. What a
Yeah.
gift.
Yeah, that really speaks to me of trust and surrender to the process. It is a series of fits and starts type of idea where it's two steps forward, three steps back sometimes. And I love that it's perfectionism, it's workaholism. It's like, oh, if I just do all these things, I can quote unquote control my experience and get the exact outcome I want. And life is a nice try.
Yeah. And then
Aw.
my story is, and then I'll be able to relax. But no, guess what? You
Ah.
could relax in the journey, not have a take a deep breath and trust along the way. Oh, that's a good idea.
That's a really good point, actually, is the idea that we get so wrapped up in if this, then that. If I
Mhm.
have the money, if I have the relationship, if I have the whatever, then I'll be okay. And the cosmic joke is you were always okay. Oh man, like
Yeah.
that's what I wish I would have known.
Oh, that's a good one. That's
I
a
would,
really,
yeah. That was just off the cuff. I didn't plan that. Okay, so that seems like a good place to stop for the lightning round. And I'm so curious. I'm always curious as to like how do we get here, right? And I want to know about childhood stuff. Like, what did your dad do? So it sounds like you had a lot of siblings. Because I feel like whatever happened to us in childhood sort of sets the stage for adulthood. So share as much or as little as you want about that part.
oh, that's so fun. I'm so grateful. I have two amazing parents still alive. I'm very grateful. And three siblings, and I'm the third of the four. There's a 10-year age gap between the top and bottom. And so there's like those two are super close, and we two are super close. But we're all now as adults really close. And we lived in one town for 10 years, another town for 10 years. While I was away in college, I got a chance to study abroad, and my parents sold all my stuff while I was gone because they moved and they got rid of everything.
Oh
That
my
was
God,
a
that
little,
must have been traumatic.
that was a little painful. And my dad was a judge in our little town, and my
All right, that says a
mom,
lot, actually.
yep, and my mom was a high school teacher, and they both had really bad alcoholic dads. My parents didn't really, I don't, not really have a problem with drinking as far as I'm aware. But we were raised with the understanding of what alcoholism looked like and the fact that there was a really high chance that we could have it because that what they taught us is it's genetic and here's what it looks like and here's and it's a family issue. And so you better be careful is what they said.
Yeah.
I could go on and on about how great our life was. We had a great life. I'm very fortunate. And yet lots of stories of things that were painful. We told the one about the blankie and I don't probably want to go into it too much, but it was definitely another good example would be first day of kindergarten. I showed up at school and I met this girl and she literally was my hostage for 12 years. Like we were each other's hostage for 12 years. Best friends, did everything together. And in her family, there was active alcoholism and chaos and craziness. And I would go spend weeks at her house. My parents would leave me there for weeks. And I think my mom was just trying to, both my parents worked and they were trying to have 4 kids and all that stuff. And so she was happy to have one of her kids off with somebody else. And I would come home and just cry. And she'd be like, "What's wrong with you? If you don't knock it off, I'm not going to let you go over there." Not like, "Hey, is something going on that you're not feeling comfortable with?" And so I never really put it all together until I got older and cleared my head a little bit. And there was chaos over there and not at my house. So, but I also kind of thrived in it. I kind of loved it. I continued to choose people like that in my life for a long time. So, yeah, so that was my childhood. It was pretty good. And so I do think that by the time, my drinking really took off in my 20s, I didn't go as far as I think a lot of people go. And my parents were, and my siblings were saying, "We're worried about you. We're worried about you. We're worried about you." And they'd point out specific things and I'd blow it off until finally that day arrived when I said, yeah, they're right. There's something wrong and I need help.
Why do you think he started drinking?
Well, the very first time I had a drink, I was 8, and that friend's family, we were snow camping, and it was freezing cold, and all the kids were freezing, and the mom gave us all a shot of blackberry brandy. This so so
Yeah, that's the first thing
funny.
I would think of to do.
So that was so I kind of always wanted to,
What was
and
your experience? Were you like, "Oh my god, this is amazing"? Was it one of
yeah,
those?
I was like, "Ooh, that felt really good." Yeah. 16 is when I started really dabbling in it more, and part of it was I was straight A student. I was valedictorian in my class. I was perfect on the outside.
Uh-huh.
All the parents loved me because I was such a good kid. But there was this part of me that was like, "I'm gonna sneak around and I'm gonna get away with this stuff." And, so that subversive sneaking thing
Mm.
was part of my journey.
Yeah, so 16, it starts taking off a little bit, and you kinda mentioned at the end, people were pointing things out to you. I think what's so interesting about what's between that kind of a sandwich is, we have a really good time, right? It's fun, and then we start experiencing some consequences, and at the end, it's kinda all consequences. What kinds of consequences were you experiencing that you're like, "Maybe they're right. Maybe this is a problem for me?"
Yeah. Well, I mean, just early at that 16-year-old phase, I did get busted one time for coming home drunk and thought I was doing a really good job of sneaking around. I got grounded for a month, and that was pretty early.
Wow.
And then that didn't stop it though. I just started sneaking even better.
Yeah.
Towards the end, I had quit a 4-year company because the guy thought he was going to marry me. We broke up when I was insane one night, insanely drunk. We broke up and I still don't know what happened that night.
Lots of blacking out.
Kind of crazy blacking out. And then fast forward 6 months and I quit that job, moved, slept on a friend's couch. I found a horrible job where I was being sexually harassed for 6 months. The partying was just continuing. I was away from my parents and my siblings watching me. And
Mhm.
then I kept saying every weekend, I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe what happened this weekend. Why did I do all this stuff? I don't remember what happened." And finally, and every weekend I'd say, "I'm not going to do it next weekend." And finally, one day it happened again. I woke up and I was not happy about what I was putting together. And I was like, "There's something wrong. I can't not do this." And so I called somebody for help.
I like how you say, "I don't like what I'm putting together." I don't know about you. Woke up in strange places with strange people. I was like, "Oh my god." Yeah, that and then having to piece things together the next day is such a painful experience. Be
Mhm.
so shame-inducing, and then I would come to conclusions and beliefs about who I was as a person and my self-esteem, and it grew to, like, self-hatred. Does that all sound familiar?
So, yes, I would go to sleep at 2 or 3 in the morning and then come to at 6 o'clock in the morning with a mad monkey mind just beating me up about what happened or trying to figure it all out. And yeah, and it was just, I'd call one friend and she'd co-sign it all. And oh, you had fun. You didn't hurt anybody until that day. It was like, I didn't call her. I called somebody else.
Yeah.
The good news is that that guilt, shame, and remorse isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
I know where I put my head down the night before.
Yes. Yeah. We're not creating new drama. So when you finally, what was there an event? You know how some people have a defining moment, a moment of clarity where you're like, yeah, I need to get help. Did you have one of those experiences or did you just go straight to seeking some sort of help? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, it was somebody had called me 3 weeks prior and said, I'm worried about you. And then that morning when that I called somebody else, that person did co-sign, said, you're sick, you're really sick, hung up the phone on me. And I was
Wow.
like, oh, I am sick. There's something wrong. And then I called that person who had suggested I might need help. Yeah. And that was the start. That was the turning point of me being like open to trying something new and not really understanding that there's a spiritual path out there that could change my whole life. That I was
Yeah.
just on fire for, I can't do what I'm doing anymore. I don't know how to do it differently, but I'll trust some other people to show me the way.
So that was is it okay to say that it was like a peer support community?
Yeah, I'd
Okay.
say I found some community. Yeah.
Yeah, some community and some people who are, able to share some self-reflection processes. Man, those self-reflection exercises for me was so revealing because I wanted to know what was wrong. I really
Mhm.
did.
Right?
And I didn't have any tools. I was like completely self-centered, but had no way of doing self-examination, which seems like a paradox, right?
That's another paradox.
Yeah, yeah. So I met a bunch of people like you that were like, you can do these things, do these writing exercise, and you can sort it all out.
Mhm.
So you had a similar experience where you're able to sort it all out.
Similar experience, lots of sorting it out. And what I love about it too is it's been a 29-year journey since then, and it hasn't stopped.
Yeah,
But the sorting it out, the new thing to sort out.
practice.
It's a practice.
Yeah,
And
there is really
yeah.
no arrival destination.
Mm-mm. Nope.
No, there's the end of the day. Take a nap, start over.
Yeah.
So I did want to quickly touch on you. So you had a period of abstinence and had a relapse. What led up to that?
Oh my gosh, Arlina, it was brutal.
Yeah.
So it was 3 years in the making.
Okay.
I had a lot of pride. We were talking about pride at the beginning, in that I had stayed recovered for so long and I had this great career and I was traveling all the
Super high
time,
achiever.
big high achieving, all that stuff. And, support my husband in his career and changing his career and him going back to school. But during a 3-year period, what ended up happening is that I was blaming him that I had to work so hard.
Mm,
And I felt like a lot of pressure. And instead of slowing down and saying, wait a second, what are the choices that I'm making to contribute to this? I
mm,
was blaming him and had a lot of self pity about that. And then I was traveling a lot with people that I worked with, and they all had stay at home wives. And I didn't really have a stay at home husband. And they drank with impunity and didn't really have, from what I could see, any consequences from that. And it just, over the course of a couple years, it just, all that combined grew and grew. And I wasn't really being honest with people in my spiritual community that I was in a lot of emotional pain.
mm.
So, I was still involved in the community and everything, but had a belief in God, and was doing the things to stay connected to that belief. But I was very much in self will and self pity until finally one day that thought of taking a drink just wouldn't leave me alone. And I finally said, I'll just have one drink. It's no big deal. And it really, honestly, it wasn't a big deal. I had two,
The
two
first one
drinks,
typically isn't.
right? I mean, I've heard different stories over the
Yeah.
years, but
Yeah.
that one was no big deal. But a couple months later, when I finally got honest about it, and then again, a couple months later, I went on another business trip and somebody was really bugging me and annoying me. And I got really resentful. And by the last day of that trip, I was like, and instead of going up to my room, I hung out at the bar with everybody. And somebody's like, just have a drink. And I was like, fine, I'll have it. And then that bottom, that night, that experience was almost as bad as my first time making a decision to stop drinking. So, and I didn't get honest about that for a while again, too. I kept it a secret for a while. So, once I came clean on that, and I'll finish with this, is that I made a decision to really prioritize that self care and really learn what was going on and deal with it. That changed my marriage. It changed my relationship with myself. It changed my relationship with my work. One of the things that somebody said, because I would say, well, nobody knew I was drinking. Nobody knew. I was away, didn't harm my family, all this stuff. I was crazy for 3 years. But the person said, you know what? If you tell yourself nobody knows, you're calling yourself a nobody. You're a somebody, and you knew.
That is so good.
So strong.
Yeah. That's one of those kind of a slap in the face. Oh my gosh. It kind of breaks the denial. What was it like having to tell Dan?
It was hard.
Yeah.
It was really hard. And yeah, we had said when we got married that if either of us drank or used again, and deal breaker, done. And so but there was a part of me that wanted to get divorced because I was like, I'm so over this marriage right now.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then there was a big part of me that didn't want that. And thankfully, he said, do what you need to do. Take care of yourself. I'll take care of me and the kids. Prioritize yourself. I don't know what that looks like. Whatever that is, go figure it out. I'll be here and we can, no major decisions for a while.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's a good man.
he's a good man.
The idea of these resentments that grow, they're just so insidious. You don't, it's so funny because I feel like the path off the beam happens in such subtle increments that we don't really notice it. And it's just tick. And then the ideas are interesting because they tend to grow. We're either growing or like we're evolving or devolving. Right. And I feel like resentment is sort of at the root of the devolving process. Like it starts to unravel everything.
Yep.
And it can happen so subtly that we don't recognize it.
100%. That's why I think it's a daily practice.
Yeah.
Not I think it is. That is why I have a daily practice now that I thought I was doing before that whole thing went down. But I
Yeah.
wasn't actually literally every day taking a look and saying, where was I dishonest yesterday? And dishonesty doesn't mean lying to somebody necessarily. It could look like I I abandoned myself in that moment and I wasn't honest with me, God, and another person about it. I walked away from the truth
Yeah.
unconsciously or consciously. And that then can fuel resentment and self-pity. And that is that boiling water, the edge of the table that if I'm paying attention, I can feel when I'm heading in the wrong direction. I'm devolving, not evolving.
Yeah.
I'm too afraid to speak the truth. So I walk away from myself and then I get pissed off at somebody because they're not doing what I think they should do?
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting. I would imagine the stress of when your partner goes back to school and the responsibility or power differential shifts,
Mm.
that it's stressful. And what do we do when we're stressed out? We go back to our old survival circuits of it's all on me, nobody can help, perfectionism, people like, yeah, I see it. And I loved how you talked about it was the self-abandonment. And like, we don't even realize it's happening.
Nope, didn't have a clue. And honestly, 4 years ago, I was back in that same emotional place again, despite the work I was still doing. And that was when I finally turned and faced it. Like, there's something else I need to deal with here. I didn't want to drink at that point. Drinking wasn't the thing coming up. It was like, somebody needs to die. Either I have to die or he has to die, but one of us is going. It was really,
suicide or
it was a little
homicide.
just
Yeah.
the crazy thinking, right? And I was like, but thankfully I had enough experience to go, there's something wrong. I need more help. I'm
Okay.
going to ask for help. And that was when I started dealing with the untreated codependence of people pleasing, trying to take care of over functioning, to take care of everything that nobody's asking me to do. And that's when I learned to name it as those are survival mechanisms, coping
Yeah.
mechanisms that I learned, and they're up again. And so how do I take care of them?
Yeah. And you didn't have to burn it down to the
No,
ground.
no. So
Yeah.
lucky. In fact, it just changed. It made my relationship with God, myself, and other human beings a whole new healthy level. Not perfect, still struggle. But
Yeah.
as my little sister would say, I love my little sister. I love all my siblings, but we've all had our own paths of finding things out about ourselves and growing. And one of the things that she says as a family of the four siblings, she'll say, you know what? We've all had a lot of collateral growth. And
That's cool.
just love that concept, right? It's not collateral
Yeah.
damage. We have collateral growth. Each of us does our own work. We continue to grow and
Yeah.
share and practice new skills. And then the other ones have to shift and adjust. And it's
Yeah.
collateral growth.
Yeah, I love that. I would imagine you're having a lot of collateral growth. Moving in recovery can be really challenging. And we moved 7 years ago. It'll be 7 years in June. And what's that process been like for you? It hasn't been that long. You guys just moved not that long ago, right?
Yeah, yeah. 6 weeks, 7 weeks,
6
something
weeks.
like that. Yeah. That we
Yeah. So you
arrived
might,
here. Yeah.
yeah. Are you in the honeymoon phase still or
No.
no? How do you take
No.
care of yourself in the face? Like, they say that death and moving, divorce are all tied for some of the most challenging experiences in life. Is that
Yeah.
is that fair for you right now?
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? It's so I think that the where we're at in this whole journey is it wasn't a fast decision. It's been 3 years in the making. A lot of prayer and meditation, a lot of seeking God and God's will. And we are 100% positive we are supposed to be right where we are. And I could tell you so many stories that are like big flashing lights of you're doing the right thing. So with that as the umbrella context, it really helped make it easier. And we did prioritize checking out our community before we got here in a bunch of different levels, church, other spiritual groups that we're a part of, to make sure it was a good fit, because that's a foundational element for us and our family.
That's huge.
And yeah, and then we just slowed down and took the time to pack our house and get rid of stuff, and 351 boxes that we counted.
You
I
counted the
I
boxes,
actually
that's
had an
hilarious.
organizer. Well, we
I
had to
did.
for the moving company. It's a
Oh,
long
right.
story, but we had an organizer come over and help us get them all organized and measured and this whole thing. So it was 351 boxes plus all the furniture and stuff. Yeah.
That's intense. Moving out of state was a whole 'nother animal as opposed to just, like, moving to a different town.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and you went all the way across the country, so that's pretty intense.
Yeah. But we have a beautiful country. We got to, we slowed down and took our time to see the
Oh,
country as we went across. And we were like, you know what? In this day and age when there's a lot of stress between different people and there's all that, wow, we were like, nope, everywhere you go, people are amazing. If you just don't focus on some of the bigger issues that people can get stuck on and just talk to
right.
people humanly. Oh my gosh, we were like, we live in the best country. It's an amazing country. That was a really good experience. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then I will say there's the grief. Like our furniture was 2 weeks late. So we camped in our house for 2 weeks. And then it was kind of fun. And then the furniture and all the 351 boxes arrived, and I cried for like a week because I was like, holy moly, it's not my house. I don't know where anything goes. I don't think we have
Mm.
enough room, blah, blah, blah. So there was some grief that came up. I miss my girls a lot. They're both still in California.
Oh, wow, so you guys are empty nesters now.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah,
lot
we
of
are
fun.
too. It's weird. Yeah, it's a little bit of adjustment. I wouldn't have it any other way now. Love my kids. For a longest time, I was like, I like my kids. I don't want my kids to leave. But now that they both, one's in Tokyo studying abroad and the other
Mm.
one is downtown, I was like, wow, my house is clean and there's leftovers. That's a good
My
point.
refrigerator's not full.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. So let me shift gears just a little bit because you've been so it sounds like you you thought you were gonna retire 4 years ago. About a year into that, you're like, "Let's move." Is that yeah.
Yeah.
And then you started a business.
Yeah.
What's the name of your business?
It's called Lavish, an experience company.
Love that.
I
Everything's
love
an
it
experience.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's very, you're used to running organizations. You have a depth of knowledge in business. What has it been like to start your own legit company?
Oh my gosh, what a difference. I want to give a tiny bit of backstory, right? Because I left this big high tech
Corporate. Yeah.
career, had,
We were in Silicon Valley. Yeah.
did a lot of stuff together too.
You were in Los Gatos. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then I took some time off and then I started working in a little jewelry store part time. And I got to, for fun, and I got to see how hard it is for a small business to market itself and get new clients and all that and run it and everything. And I was like, wow, that's hard. But it was through being there and having the experience of my husband gifting me an experience actually when I was 30. Well, we were dating and he
Couple
put
years ago.
together, he put together this whole experience for me that was a complete scavenger hunt through Los Gatos
Oh,
that every step of the way I thought that was the present. And then no, they were like, now go to this place. It was such a great journey. And I was like, this guy's so romantic. I hope he proposes to me. And so one of the most memorable things, and then I saw high tech friends, guys, women that I'd be on business trips with, and they'd be like, oh my gosh, I need to run out and get my wife an anniversary gift for tomorrow, and me too, by the way. I'd be on a business trip. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Christmas in like 3 days, you know, better hurry up and buy something quick. It was
right.
not because you're so challenged all the time.
Yeah.
So a couple of years ago, I had this idea from working in the store of like putting these experiences together. And I actually thought my boss should go do it. And she thought I should go do it. And one thing led to another. And I launched Lavish.
You're like, fine, I'll do it. That's great. And I feel like the principles that help us to manage our emotions in other areas, all the things that we learn about behavior change and self-care and all, reprogramming our nervous system and all that stuff really translate well to business. Because at
Mm,
the end of the day, what you're talking about is an emotional experience, right? Recovery is an emotional experience. You can read all the books, but until you have your own experience, it doesn't really mean the same thing.
mhm.
So I love this idea that you're doing your own business. How are you? I love the concept of the business. How are you managing your own experiences through? I mean, entrepreneurship is a roller coaster. Lots of
You
ups,
know,
lots of downs. There's, we get excited about things, and then there's like discouragement and disappointment after challenges or like results aren't coming. Like, how do you manage all that?
yeah, I think to your point, I think it's the same principles I've learned over the years. So there is well, first of all, I'm pretty organized. So that does help. But from just learning how to run a business, marketing as an example, I really truly didn't know about advertising, even though I worked in a company that did stuff around that. Right. And so I invested in advertising and a couple specific magazines, other things, and zero, not one lead. So, and I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? Oh no. And I was kind of doing this for fun. And then now I'm investing money into it that's not getting me any return. So that example of that is that the principle of, okay, I tried it, not to beat myself up or get paralyzed in fear, but is say, okay, acceptance. What did I learn? What am I going to do about it? Make a change for next time. Get a clear yes and no based on learning from those experiences. Yeah. So that's just one example of applying the principles.
Yeah, that's and I feel like the self care practice that you have is something that'll can sustain your nervous system through those. The highs can be just as dysregulating as the lows.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Right.
thinking I did it. It's never done.
No. And I did a big campaign a couple weeks ago, an email campaign, and had great results from it. I mean, great results from this email campaign that I did. And yet, and so then I'm like, woo, for 24 hours, very pumped up about it. And then it got a little deflated as certain things started happening afterwards, you know?
Yeah, Bravo.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's such a roller coaster. And I love that you have these guiding principles of, being of service and these practices rooted in sort of higher principles so that we don't get too lost in the minutia and, recognizing that, we still need help at every stage.
I was just asking a community of people today. I'm having problems loading my new LinkedIn banner. It won't save. I've done everything I'm supposed to do. So I'm asking people, can you help? Is there anybody out there that can, troubleshoot this for me? I've tried AI, I've tried everything. And so one person said, yeah, try this and this. If it doesn't work, I can lend you my executive assistant. I was like, thank you.
Did you get it fixed?
Not yet, because I've had other things. So I will.
That's on the
But
agenda. Yeah.
yeah, but I kind of wanted to go back to something, which is explaining a little bit about the genesis of Lavish. It is really tied to these principles of recovery. So, what I believe that Lavish brings is an emotional concierge service for people who they deeply care, but they don't have the bandwidth to execute on these meaningful moments. And
Mm.
so we curate that for them so that they can show up fully present in their relationships. And the principles behind that are things like, I don't start with logistics, I start with feeling. So whenever somebody's coming to me for an experience, I ask, how do you want that person to feel? How do you want to feel? I always start with that. And one of the things that ties to this life journey I've been on with recovery is that I've learned that it's those feelings inside of me that are the guideposts.
Yeah.
So I try and give that space to other people. Like, how do you want to feel? How do you want them to feel? I really have learned to be a deep listener over years too. Again, thanks to recovery. So I listen and then I propose based on that. Maybe not what they're saying or thinking on the surface, but like what's
Yeah.
underneath it. The other thing I'll finish with that idea too from just the principles is that I have learned that it's not a problems don't come from often from a dramatic thing. A lot of times it's little by slow that all of a sudden you've got a disconnect or disharmony in a relationship. Just not paying attention to something, forgetting a birthday, or not having the time to be thoughtful about it, or not taking care of some of those details. And my goal is to help my clients not have to worry about that part. They can just hand that off to me so that they can show up truly the way they want to in that relationship in a caring way. And hopefully
That is so
prevent some of
important.
that erosion. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. No, that's really important. I'll definitely leave links to your LinkedIn once it's corrected. But yeah, we'll leave links to all that. No, I so appreciate your time. I really admire you. You're just one of those people that are just such a quality person, so thoughtful. And I really have seen you stick to your integrity and your values over the years. And you really do walk the talk. So I'm glad we got a
Mm.
chance to sit down.
Thank you so much, Arlina. I just appreciate you and the time and back at you walking the walk, walking the talk. Yeah. Thanks,
Thanks. Thanks.
Arlina.
We'll
Yeah.
talk soon.
All
Thanks so
right.
much.
All right.